beyond the name that makes headlines today. Alberto Prieto Valencia was for years a well-known and at the same time reserved figure within the commercial ecosystem of the Guadalajara wholesale market, one of the most important distribution centers in the western part of the country. His profile was not that of a media entrepreneur, but rather that of a constant operator, present in the day-to-day logistics, supply, and movement of goods that sustain an essential part of the regional economy. Prieto Valencia built his career in the grain and cereal trade, a sector that requires capital, trusted networks, and refined logistics capacity. He owned strategically located warehouses, which allowed him to control not only the sale but also the storage and distribution of the product. In this environment where traders, transporters, and large volumes of cash goes of converge, his name became common, associated with a businessman who had managed to establish himself in a highly competitive market. Over time, his activity expanded to the freight transport sector, and he founded the company Odal, dedicated to logistics services with dry and refrigerated boxes. This move was not accidental. It responded to a logic of vertical integration, common among entrepreneurs
All right, we're
seeking
gonna
to
try
reduce
this new streaming this
intermediaries
year,
and
man.
ensure control of the
This year,
entire
we can
chain
do more
from
streaming,
the
more
supplier
live
to
shit.
the final
Try to be more
destination.
active.
In business terms, it was an evolution consistent with the
Let's
growth of
try
his
this shit out, man.
operations.
See how far I get.
However, his
Don't
figure was
forget, man.
never free
Subscribe to
of
the my
controversy.
other channel, not the main
At
channel.
different times,
My
he
E
was
homie
arrested by
reactions.
municipal
I don't
authorities
post on my
on
main
charges related
channel
to the
because
possession of
I'm not able to
weapons
get
or
monetized.
exclusive
So
use of the
that's
army.
just
Both
So
episodes
subscribe to the
ended
new
without
channel though,
formal
man.
legal proceedings, which
E
left
homie reactions.
these antecedents in an ambiguous terrain, registered but not concluded, known but legally unresolved. For investigators, this type of antecedent does not constitute guilt, but it does form part of the context surrounding a
Yo,
character
my
and
boy
helps
right
to
here got shot up with
understand
20,
how he was
200
perceived inside and
shots at his
outside
vehicle,
his
man.
immediate
My nephew hit me
environment.
up about this shit, so that's what
In
I'm
the
doing
food
first.
market, his nickname, El Prito, or Don Beto, reflected a dual
Got shot up in the
meaning:
Lambo with his daughter, man. Gonna
closeness for
lie, bro.
some,
Rest in peace to her,
respect
man.
for others.
16-year-old got
He
shot
was
just for
neither a
being
minor merchant
being with her
nor
dad,
a
bro.
marginal
That's just
actor.
crazy.
His economic capacity, the type of vehicles he used, and the security detail that accompanied him showed that he was someone aware of the risks surrounding certain
Mexico
levels of
dangerous. They don't
economic
play that shit.
power in
That's why I
contexts
stand my
where
scary ass on this side
legal
of the
and
border.
illegal interests converge on road. From an investigative perspective, Alberto Prieto Valencia embodies a complex profile, a formal businessman with visible and registered businesses who operated in an environment historically vulnerable to illicit practices, extortion, and parallel economies. His life walked that fine line where commercial success, public exposure, and the structural violence of the environment
I gotta learn how to do that super kick shit,
intersected.
man.
Understanding who Alberto Prieto was does not imply passing judgment, but rather reconstructing the context of a man who managed to position himself in a key sector, accumulated economic power, and operated for years in a
I
setting where
need to learn how to
security
do that
is
super
never a
chat,
minor
all that,
detail.
all that bullshit with
His
people
story, before it
buying
became
shit,
a police
sending
case,
you
already
shit. You know what I'm
spoke
saying?
of the silent
I gotta learn
tensions
all
that
that.
accompany certain models of success in regions marked by the dispute over economic and territorial control. The day of the attack, the murder of Alberto Prieto Valencia, was not a fortuitous event or an episode of random violence. The way it happened suggests that it was a planned, direct attack executed with prior knowledge of his movements. On the afternoon of December 29, Prietito was
Of
traveling
course,
through a
that shit was
Victoria
planned.
residential
What you
neighborhood,
man?
an area located on the border between
Damn, look at his
Guadalajara and
windshield, dog. That
Zapopan,
shit's all
a regular
fucking
transit
shot
point
up.
for those traveling between the city's food market and key logistics corridors. He was traveling in a Lamborghini Urus, a high-end vehicle that, beyond its economic value, made it highly identifiable in the urban environment. He was not alone. His daughter was in the same vehicle, and the trip was accompanied by a private security detail with bodyguards
Bandit.
who circulated in additional units. This detail is relevant. The presence of bodyguards
Oh,
is not
that's
a common
cool.
preventative measure, but rather a response to previously perceived risks. In this context, the attack was executed as an ambush. An armed group intercepted the convoy and immediately opened fire. The dynamics of the confrontation indicate that the aggressors were not seeking to intimidate or warn, but rather to neutralize their target. The reaction of the bodyguards who responded to the attack led to a prolonged shootout with multiple shots that lasted several minutes, something unusual in residential areas and which demonstrates the determination of the attackers. The
You
exchange
can't
of
be in
gunfire
Mexico and
left a
showing
high
shit like that
impact
off and
scene.
not be expect
Damaged
somebody to,
vehicles,
you know what I mean,
multiple
find out
spent
what you do for a
casings,
living.
and the rapid mobilization of security forces. Alberto Prieto and his daughter died at the scene, reinforcing the hypothesis that the attack was designed to leave no room for survival. The death of one of the bodyguards and the serious injuries of four others confirmed the intensity of the confrontation. From an investigative perspective, the place and time of the attack do not appear to have been chosen at random. The area, although busy, offers quick escape
That's just
routes to
crazy.
different points in the metropolitan area. Furthermore, the attack occurred at a time when the flow of vehicles allowed escapes to blend into traffic, a common
I need to
feature
get my
in
CDL, man.
well-planned criminal
Nice
operations.
ass truck you driving.
The authorities' immediate response included seizing vehicles presumably involved in the attack and deploying ground and air operations. However, the absence of arrests in the hours that followed reinforces the idea that those responsible had defined escape routes and knowledge of the terrain. The day of the attack marks a definitive turning point in the story of Alberto Prieto Valencia, not only because of the violence used, but because it reveals that the tensions surrounding his figure had escalated to an irreversible level. For investigators, this type of event cannot be
Oh, I gotta
explained
pay to
solely
do
by the
some
time
other
of the
shit.
shot, but rather by a prior accumulation of conflicts, interests, and threats that finally found a violent outlet in a matter of minutes. What is known about the investigation? After the attack, the investigation was activated under the assumption of intentional homicide with characteristics of direct execution, a classification that is not assigned automatically but rather responds to the form, context,
Background.
and level of violence used. From the beginning, the authorities made it clear that this was not an assault or a circumstantial event, but rather an attack directed against a specific person. The Jalisco prosecutor's office opened several lines of investigation simultaneously, a common practice in high impact cases, with the aim of not closing analysis scenarios prematurely. These lines of investigation include personal and environmental, business history, police records, and possible conflicts arising from economic activities. In this type of investigation, each element intersects with patterns previously identified in other similar cases. One of the axes that has generated the most attention is the reference to the so-called illegal Colombian raffles that were detected in recent
Damn, man. Catch
years
pictures of
in
that
the
too,
area
man.
of the
Fuck
food
it.
market.
Fuck it.
State authorities have indicated that there is journalistic evidence linking this phenomenon to economic disputes and criminal structures dedicated to fraud, extortion, and to territorial control schemes. From an investigative perspective, this point is not assumed to be a conclusion, but rather a possible context of risk that must be verified with documentary, financial, and testimonial evidence.
This game, you're not ready for.
That's a movie?
This seemed like part two because those people came from that side, that way, this seemed like part two, it was bullets and bullets and bullets from all sides. The country and much of the world have closely followed this shocking series called How a Child is Born. The protagonist of this season, Chukito, also known as the Bad Angel, a young man who became a symbol of a generation trapped between neglect and abandonment. But many still wonder where his story really ended. what his last breath was. Today we are going to go step by step through the final scene of his life, from the exact route of his escape to the moment when, in a desperate attempt to survive, he throws himself from a coconut tree and ends up by the authorities. This is where the bad angel fell. My people, many blessings. We made a pit stop here to make this introduction. Next, let's go to the place where the authorities killed Chukito. We are going to recreate the scene a bit, but the important thing about this video is the message at the end of it, since there are many things that need to be clarified. This series has brought many conflicting opinions, but in the end there are many people who do not understand the objective of what we are doing, and in the end, video after video, people keep asking for the other. For example, we have interviewed his mother, his stepfather, and his classmates as well, but by chance his real father writes to me and says, "Capri, I want you to interview me, because you interviewed his stepfather. I want you to interview his real father now, and I am going to tell you the truth about how everything happened." Even the words that Chukito had, I was the one who taught him. So, what do? In the end, I have to listen to his
Dad
version
wants
too,
to
and if
be
he was
on
watching
TV
everything,
too.
he knows that they themselves explained it to me. Look at me, I want to tell you the truth. So, we are following up on this series, and at the end we are going to give you details of this video after you see how everything happened. Let's evaluate both versions, the versions given by Sebastian Glow and the version given by Punto37. We're going to evaluate both versions at the scene. We're also going to record a coconut tree where they say Chukito jumped, where he fell, and where the police were. There are also people in the area who will tell me in detail how the situation happened, since they experienced it all. So, for those of you who are following this series, there are many people who are against these videos that are being made, simply because they understand that he is a criminal, and that you can't talk about that without realizing the message that this is sending to all the young people who are watching these videos. So, my people, let's go there. Let's break it down. Let's go. Right now we are on our way to the exact place where the bad angel fell. A place marked by controversy, mystery, and today we will not only show you what happened, we will present you with both versions. The official version, as told by the authorities, and that of the neighborhood witnesses, who claim that the story was very different. We are going to reconstruct step by step what happened in that forgotten corner where the life of Chukito, the bad angel, ended. My people, at this moment we are in the exact place where Chukito ended his life. Look how it looks. This is a kind of hotel. We are going to go to the specific room where he was at that time with Sebastian and Dylan, another young man who ended his life. Unfortunately, crime brings negative things on all sides, suffering for the family and all that. And the message that I am going to give at the end of this video is very important, and I want you to pay attention. Another thing, before I show you what the room looked like inside, what the escape route was like, where the police later took his life, at the beginning of this video, I want to tell you something. The message of the last message is different, but at least this message is that there are many people both nationally and internationally who have become interested in this topic, and there is a wave today who have chosen crime as their career. It is something that is growing in the Dominican Republic. It is a street movement that is forming, and I understand that in one way or another we have to try to raise awareness, and at least I am going to try to do so with this video. There are many people who do not understand why these types of videos are made. I am the only one of all the communicators in this country who brings you the news, but also goes to the place of the news and shows you things in the clearest and simplest way possible. If these topics are being covered today, it is because one video leads to another and because the people themselves are asking for it. This was asked of me a lot. Go to the place where he is because we imagine it, but we do not know what it looks like. So next we are going to show him that. Let's go. We are now at the exact place where the persecution took place and where Chukito's life, a young man who at such a young age decided to take to the streets, took shape. And there is a very important message that I am going to give in this video at the end. which I understand is the most important thing in this video. We are covering the news. Ultimately, that is my job, showing the reality. Remember that it is not the same for you to speak from a static place about a topic than to go to the place. Take the risk and show everything in the most detail possible. Ultimately, that is what we do. While others may be commenting on a topic from their comfort zone, you are imagining when that person is talking about what the environment was like, where it happened. Well, I show you the environment and where it happened. This is the apartment, my people.